Welcome back and get ready for our last lesson. So I hope you enjoy. Recently, we had a lesson on resolving conflict. We went over ways to resolve conflicts peacefully. For example, using words like let's, we, our, and together help us come up with solutions that usually work great for everyone. We also learned to steer clear when the situation is just too dangerous. So, when conflicts go unresolved or we don't manage them in time, it can lead to violence. Today, we're going to focus on media violence. So, before we get started, let's define violence. Violence is the intentional harm done to another person. TV shows, movies, video games, and other media often portray conflict and violence when they're telling a story or as part of a theme. Think about it for a second. How many of you have viewed violence in the media? Some depictions of violence on TV or in movies are realistic, but most are not. Whether or not they are realistic or not, they can influence a belief that using violence is normal and an effective way to resolve conflict. I'm going to tell you part of a story. I want you to just think for a second what you think happened next. A man walking along the roadway is struck by a passing pickup truck. What do you expect happened next? So, what do you think? He goes to the hospital and he's injured really bad. He may even walk with a limp for the rest of his life. Realistically, you would expect the man to have serious bumps and bruises and a broken arm or leg. But that's not what happened at all. The man jumps up, throws a grenade at the truck, and it explodes, and he walks away. Does this outcome seem realistic? Hopefully you say no. We should all agree that a man getting hit by a passing truck would be seriously injured and probably end up in the hospital. So why do you think this scene was exaggerated? Let's think for a second. If this were an action movie, the movie would be pretty boring if the lead character spent the rest of the movie in the hospital after the first scene. So just know that that scene was unrealistic. The following statements are true about how violence is depicted on TV and in movies. Number 1, they are often unrealistic. Number 2, they exaggerate how often people resolve conflicts with violence. And number 3, our critical thinking skills help us to form a realistic perspective about violence. So let's take another look at what's realistic and what's not. In this cartoon, we see two people fighting. Realistically, someone would get hurt and the fight would end pretty quickly. We know that action movies exaggerate the effects of violence, and we also know that many TV shows exaggerate how often people resolve their conflicts with violence. We also know that witnessing violence affects us in our outlook on the world around us. How does viewing exaggerated violence on TV and in movies affect our sense of safety? This is our final lesson. Congratulations! You made it through all the lessons. So just to do a review, we have been talking about how we relate with one another. We've learned how to identify and manage our emotions and to do the same with the people around us. We talked about building friendships and hanging out with friends who are a positive influence on the choices we make. We also talked about respecting ourselves and respecting others by talking things out and asking for what we need with respect and confidence. These ideas promote peace and positive relationships. So take all of these strategies and continue to make the best choice possible. Remember, keep it positive. Come up with some great solutions on your own. See you later.